Alexis here, coming to you with an awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope your Friday. Today is Friday. I hope your Friday is going well. Do me a favor, hit the like button and please hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. Hold on, let me straighten that out. There we go. Boom, bam, boom. Again, please share, please subscribe, all that good stuff. It really means a lot. Before we jump into today's conversation, number one, go dogs. Hold on, where my magazine at? We have homecoming yesterday. Tomorrow. Don't know if I'm going to make it to homecoming. Don't know if I'm going to make it to homecoming, but we have homecoming tomorrow. Back-to-back national champions. We play Missouri, University of Missouri tomorrow. Tigers, they have a pretty good football team. They're like 7-1. They're like 7-1. Only losses to LSU, which was a very close game, high-scoring game, but very close. So we have them tomorrow at home in Athens at 3:40 p.m. Guys, I love college football. I play college football. I'm not only a University of Georgia fan, I am alumni. Again, I am also alumni. So looking forward to that tomorrow. I'll be glued in on the TV. You know, we usually don't go live on Saturdays because Saturdays are dedicated to, well, my son, he has a football game in the morning, he has a playoff game. And then the rest of the day, we watch college football and eat wings and stuff. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. Boom, bam, boom. And then we are rolling to Sierra Leone. November 21st to December 3rd, November 21st through December 3rd. Come and check us out. Again, come and check us out. If you're interested in joining us, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa to learn more. Citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. But even if you don't qualify and you want to have a good time in Sierra Leone, go to Danfo.Africa. Come and check us out. Come and roll with us. We're rolling to Benin Republic in January for the Voodoo Festival. That's January 3rd to the 12th. Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival. That's May 12th to the 22nd. And then we're going to Nigeria for the Oshun Festival. That's August 4th through the 13th. Again, August 4th through the 13th. So we're going to have a good time in all those countries that we go to. So please visit Danfo.Africa. Oh, let me make that watch. There we go. Yeah. So today's topic, all right, make sub-Saharan Africa great again. This is my theory. I've said this before. People who follow me, people who subscribe to me, this is my theory. The reason why Black folks are starting to claim being Aboriginal to North Dakota, being Aboriginal to Detroit, Michigan, saying that they the original Native Americans of Buffalo, New York. The reason why Black folks are saying that they are the original Hebrew Israelites from Israel and that Israel is Northeast Africa. The reason why, this is my theory. Again, this is my theory. Because America and Israel are two of the most powerful countries in the world. When you think of America, when you think of Israel, they're two of the most powerful countries in the world. And people want to be on the winning team. Again, people want to be on a winning team. And when you think of sub-Saharan Africa, all right, when you think sub-Saharan Africa, you don't think winning team. You don't think winning brand. I'm sorry, that is just the reality. I'm team sub-Saharan Africa no matter what. So they're coming up with all these stories, how they're the Native Americans of Portland, Oregon, and indigenous to well, from the outside looking in, people consider America to be the winning team. In Ant Report, I would much rather, if I had to choose a place to live in, and the choices were America, China, or Russia, it's gonna be America. I mean, come on now. Come on now. Let's just be honest. People aren't trying to get into Russia or China like that. They're not. So let's just be honest. So they want to attach themselves to this land. So they're coming up with all sorts of conspiracy theories on why they are from this land or lands of Israel and America. But me, I am Team Sub-Saharan Africa. And the problem is these people don't zoom out. These people do not zoom out. America as a rural power, in quotation marks, only the last, we'll say 100 years, 150 years maybe? Somebody said the original Chinese were black. See, here we go. And I'm going to get to that here in a second. I don't complain about systematic racism every day. I don't. But some people do. But like I said, the last one, America's was a so-called superpower. Let's just be honest. The last 150 years, maybe. We'll say pre-World War I, which is going to bring you about, 100 years? 125 years? So we're talking about 125, 150 years roughly. When it comes to Israel, I mean, Israel was just created in 1948. So we'll say 75 years. Am I doing my math right? Yes, 75 years roughly for Israel. So the point I'm trying to make, this is the mindset of a front runner, or what's the term? Not front runner, but a person that, he chooses a team, like he's not loyal. There you go. A fan that's not loyal through the thick and thin, or that is a fan that's not loyal during times of adversity. There we go. I use my University of Georgia Bulldogs. Before our back-to-back championships, 2021 and 2022, national champions, our last national championship before that was 1980. There you go. Fair weather fan. Thank you, Larry. Bandwagon. There we go. Thank you. Bandwagon. There we go. That's what this is about. Now I get back to my University of Georgia story. These people who are claiming Israel and that they are native to America, these are bandwagon fans. That's what they are. It's just they're they're just using pseudo information. They're using pseudo information to hide the fact that they're bandwagon fans. There we go. Thank you so much. Back to my University of Georgia story. You have some people who were fans through the thick and thin from 1980 all the way to now. And you have some people who, when our football team was down, early 90s, they jumped off the bandwagon. So a lot of people have jumped off the sub-Saharan Africa bandwagon. That's what it is. A lot of people have jumped off the bandwagon, and now they're on the Israel, the Native Americans from Ohio, we the Olmecs, we the Aztecs, we the first samurais, we the first shoguns. Buddha was black. We the original Hindus. The Indians, the Hindus got yoga from us. Yoga is ours. They would have claimed all of that, but what nothing to do with sub-Saharan Africa. They've jumped off the bandwagon. The bandwagon fans. They jumped off the bandwagon. And a lot of it has to do with what white people find value in. White people found value in yoga. Nah, the yoga is ours. White people found value in Israel. We the original Israelis now. White people here in America, no, we the original Americans. We the Aboriginals. The other Indians are Mongoloids. America is black. It's a black land. White people find interest in the Olmec statues. We's the original Olmecs now, all of a sudden. White people find value in the Aztec pyramids. Us Africans, we built the pyramids now in Mexico. The original Mexicans were black. But since white people have not really found value in sub-Saharan Africa, except for interest in the resources there, they don't want nothing to do with sub-Saharan Africa. Like, I know the game that's being played, and it's okay. That's what you want, that's okay. But guess what? We're going to make sub-Saharan Africa great. Yeah, Israel is in Africa. Okay, all right. And listen, I love my brothers and sisters no matter what you believe in, but I mean, come on. In all honest, Donnie, do you think Africans stayed in Africa for their entire existence until 400 years ago? Let me say this. Well, the answer is no. And part of that, I'll give you an example. For thousands of years, Africans have been making Hajj to the Middle East. Because, Islam has been in West Africa for thousands of years. Some chose to stay in the Middle East and not return. But what we have to understand, okay, yes, Africans have moved all around the planet. Okay, I'll give you that. I agree. Not in mass, but yes, some have. But the reality is, when you are a minority for the most part, especially back then, in a foreign land, most times, not all, you're going to get swallowed up by that culture. And there is just no proof that Africans were moving around in mass like that, where they could have sustained themselves without having to integrate with the people who are already there. Unless you could prove me wrong. Now, if Africans were moving all across this planet, whether it be Asia, Europe, North and South America, at the same rate as, we'll say, Mexicans and Venezuelans, are moving to America, then yeah, they probably could have sustained themselves and segregated themselves and kept their cultures and fully intact. But for the most part, the few that moved got swallowed up by the people who are already there. So I think it's possible, yes. Possible to the point where now you got all these black people claiming to be Hebrews and Indians? No. I hope that makes sense. Guys, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, please go to searchforuhuru.com. Please go to searchforuhuru.com. Click this link right here, okay? See the link up here that says purchase documentary Search for Uhuru by clicking here? If you're watching this and you have not bought the documentary yet, please go and support and buy the documentary. Go to searchforuhuru.com. Go to searchforuhuru.com. And buy the documentary if you have not bought it yet. I need everyone, even if you already bought a copy of the documentary, it's streamed on my site. Again, it's streamed via on my site. You stream it. Once you buy it, it is yours for life. Like I said, we are not going anywhere. Again, we are not going anywhere. We will always be here. We will always be here. We aren't going anywhere, family. So go to searchforuhuru.com, click on that link, and buy the documentary. I need everybody to buy the documentary, okay? All right, so I'm gonna put the link in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Again, you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation, family. Click on that link and go ahead and call in. There we go. Castronova, go ahead.
Peace. What's up, Dynast?
Hey, Cash, I heard you was Blackfoot, part of the Blackfoot tribe from Lake Michigan.
No, Redbone from Indiana. Redbone Indian from Indiana.
All right, go ahead.
You know what I'm pushing back on? I'm pushing back on the sub-Saharan African term. I just want to know what a sub-Himalayan Indians are and what a sub-Mason-Dixon line Americans are.
I mean, but okay, for context, for proper context, I'm just saying sub-Sahara Africa. for
I
proper.
think we need to make all.
You know, we're talking. Listen, we're talking Mali Empire. We're talking Songhai Empire, Zulu. You know, we're Congo. We're talking sub-Saharan Africa, just for reference.
Okay, but don't you think we need to make the North good too?
I mean, let's start with sub-Saharan because that's where we come from, no doubt. These Negroes take a DNA test. Ain't no Northeast Africa coming up on a DNA test.
Definitely not.
So that's what I'm saying. So we go, or no, and I did a show on this yesterday. The Black Indians take a DNA test. They're going to have way more European admixture than they will anything of any native tribe here in America. So
definitely.
So
Irish admixture.
It's going to say West. It's going to say sub-Saharan Africa, the majority for all of them. So we're going to focus on sub-Saharan Africa right now.
Okay, we're going to go with that. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's why. then we go double back to North.
I like that.
Yeah. We could then double back to North. I have no problem doing that.
All right.
But we got to focus on sub-Saharan first because that's where we come from. Because ain't nobody's DNA test coming back from Tunisia or Morocco or Libya or Kemet or what's the other country? Algeria. Nah. So that's where we're gonna focus.
All right. That's the only context I wanted to add. Thanks for having me on the show, Dynast.
No problem.
Peace.
All right, guys. Links in the chat room if you want to call in and add the conversation. Link is in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. Please click on that link. Again, please click on the link. It's in the chat room. I'm going to call in. And guys, go ahead and super. You know what? Don't super chat. I want you guys to buy the documentary. All right. Don't super chat. Go and buy the documentary. In fact, I mean, if you want to super chat, I don't mind. I don't care, but I would love for you guys to go and buy the documentary. So when you go to searchforwho.com and you click that blue link, it's going to bring you here to the documentary site. Okay. It's $10.99. I want you guys to buy the documentary, family. That's what I want you guys to do. Buy the documentary. Everyone who's watching this, buy the documentary. Please go to searchforwho.com, click that blue link, and it'll take you booyah right there. So link is in the chat room. If you want to call in after the conversation, you're more than welcome to click on that link and call in to the conversation. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, Dyke, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm a diehard American, love my country, but I have this nostalgia for Africa that I'm trying to learn and get as much information as I possibly can. That's why I really love your channel. What I'm curious is, do you see African leaders wanting Africa to do good? I mean, we have the coups that are going on, which is great, and hopefully they'll be successful. But do the leaders actually want the people to do good? Because without the leaders trying to better their people, I mean, what do you think?
It depends on the country. Some do, some I don't know what they're going on. I don't know what's going on. As far as, are they serving the best interest of the people or of corporations? and foreign
So,
entities. At the end of the day, no matter where you're at, I think it's really up to the people to you can't rely on the government, but at the same time, the government shouldn't sabotage you as well. So I don't.
exactly.
So
Gotcha.
it depends which country. I like what even though he's kind of controversial because of his loyalty to France. I love what Macky Sall. I love what he's doing in Senegal. I don't know, but see, I really don't know much about Rwanda. You know, I'm more of a West Africa guy, and I haven't been to Rwanda yet. But I love what Macky Sall is doing with Senegal, because I've seen that place, just that country, because I've been going since like 2012, 2011, something like that. And I've seen that country, the way it's just developed and grown.
I know you do a lot in Sierra Leone. How's their government?
Well, I mean, Sierra Leone's the only country, that has this initiative where Black Americans can come get their citizenship as long as they have the DNA test with African ancestry. No other country's doing that. So, they're ahead of the game with that.
Definitely. Right on, man. I appreciate it. I'm just gonna continue listening, and I definitely will be taking a trip over there with you.
Have you bought my documentary yet?
Yes.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, hey, I support you, man. I support you with super chats because, see, I work so much. I really don't have a lot of friends or anything, and I've always wanted to go to Africa, but I don't want to go by myself. And then I stumbled onto you, and I'm like, oh man, okay. So now I got a place where I can kick it and go to Africa with you. So I'm really into this. I want to learn as much as I can.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate it, brother.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Links in the document. Let me bring Ant on here. Ant, go ahead.
Yo, what up, man? You can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Now, I was just thinking, I was like, about I know y'all like to give the Black Hebrews a hard time, but I feel like I see a lot of similarities between what they're doing in Israel and what the Black Americans did in Liberia. You know what I mean? Because it's like they got a claim to the land, and they're like, we're going to go over here and we're going to take it. Or like that Zionist kind of, know what I mean? I'm seeing some similarities there, man. I don't know.
There's definitely no similarity at all.
I mean, think about it. You got Black Americans going to Africa now, talking about, oh, I want land. This is our homeland. They got a different mindset than the indigenous Africans there. And then on top of that, you know what I mean? It's like, there's 400 years of separation there, but they can say, well, this is my ancestor, this is my ancestor land. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's the claim, and then they're going over there with the money, buying up the land, trying to influence the people over there to think kind of like them. You see that a lot on YouTube, where it's like you got Africans that jump on a panel and Black Americans are pretty much telling them how to think. Like, oh, you got to treat everybody the same because of skin color. Like, basically forget your traditions, and we gotta all think exactly the same. Pan-Africanism. I mean, it's the same. I think it's like it's really, really, really similar.
It ain't the same, bro.
How so? You got a claim to Africa, right?
It's not the same, because what the freed slaves that left America, that went to Liberia, what they're able to accomplish, Black Hebrew Israelites will never be able to accomplish, because they're waiting on this prophecy. We took the initiative and we took our destiny in our own hands. Meanwhile, Hebrew Israelites, they're waiting on a prophecy, which, if you ask me, is never going to happen. I'm sorry. I love my brothers. It just ain't going to happen. It's equivalent to my son thinking that Santa Claus is going to come through the chimney. So you can't compare.
No, you could wait on a prophecy and still make moves. So if there's people going to Israel,
but the ultimate move where they will control their own destiny, not have to serve the IDF, not have to be at the mercy of Netanyahu, whatever the hell his name is, the so-called, as they call them, the synagogue of Satan, it's not going to happen.
But what's the difference though? You go to Africa, it's not like you're really going to get any political power unless you intermarry with indigenous Africans on the ground. And even then, you pretty much almost got to hide who you are to be able to make any type of political move.
Yeah, but we have political power in Liberia. That's the point.
In Liberia.
Yeah, that's the point. That's what I'm saying. We
Who?
have the Black Americans that went over there.
But they're not getting into power no more. That's a wrap.
Well, I'm gonna say yes and no, because over in Liberia, you got to see what people don't understand. In Liberia, there was really no really true such thing as an American Liberian. After like the first or second generation, they had intermarried with the locals, a lot of the men and some of the women.
Yeah, but the main thing is the men, because they're going to be pushing their ideology on the children. So it really doesn't matter who you marry.
Right.
It really matters like
So then what you're saying is that the Black Hebrew Israelites go to Israel and mix in with the synagogue.
Hey, they might be better off, because if the woman's Jewish, then your kid is going to be automatically Jewish. So they might be better off producing some Drakes.
The whole purpose of that. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nah, it's not. It's no comparison.
No, the comparison is you're still going to be almost a second-class citizen, So there's the claim that makes you get to that land, wherever the land, you want to go, Israel or Africa. Then on top of that, it's like, okay, this is our birthright. And it's not it's not like a book, but it's like, it is in a way a prophecy, right? But then it's like, you're still always going to be kind of this second-class citizen for at least a couple generations.
But they're gonna get swallowed. It ain't gonna happen, bro. All right, go ahead, G-Man. Unmute yourself, G-Man.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, to respond to the other guy, I think his name is Ant. Like here's the thing, right? Like Israel is already like there's no real comparison, because Israel's already built up. It's already land that's been claimed. Whereas Liberia was not claimed when the Americo-Liberians arrived there. So it's not the same comparison. It's like apples to oranges almost. Like they're not building, like the Hebrew Israelites wouldn't be building anything. They wouldn't be establishing anything.
No, there definitely is a comparison, man. They wrote the Constitution. The damn name is Liberia. They got counties over there with the same name as American county. How not? They didn't trace their family to no, Grebos or none of the indigenous tribes over there. They went over there strictly because they were like, look, we're Black, we're African. I don't care about your tribes, but we're coming over here with our ideology. We want a free Liberia, liberty, right? We want our own. It's the same thing that these Zionists, the people say the Zionists, that mindset. And the Black Hebrew Israelites have the same mindset where they're like, okay, yeah, the white people are controlling Israel today, but we're going to eventually have our own prophecy where we're going to eventually control it. So it's
and what I'm saying,
same type of mindset.
And what I'm saying, that's delusional.
It's completely delusional. It's completely delusional.
Completely delusional. Hard stop. So.
Yeah, there's literally no comparison at all. Like literally no comparison.
I don't know. I see a comparison, but maybe I think the Hebrews need to just change their course of action. Instead of saying, "Oh, the white man's the devil," maybe they should try to better relations with that. And maybe, who knows, them, just Israel being cool with the United States. That's kind of a level of protection in itself. Because it's not like they're going to bomb Dimona, you know what I'm saying, in Israel, because those are Americans at the end of the day. So that would be an issue. And that's the only group that they probably can't really get away with doing that. So there is a level of kind of like protection. The most they could do is kind of really deport them, but the people who are actually serving in the military, who are born there, it's not going to be easy to do. You know what I mean?
Here's the problem with a lot of Black folks, right? Is we like it. We like going into places that are already built. Like we have a certain level of comfort in mind, and It's already built up. Israel is already so good example. Israel is already.
Hey, G man, you got a lot of going on in the background. Let me
Yeah, sorry. I'm outside. Yeah, so Israel has already like all the infrastructure. It's got all the colleges, and everything is already built up. The economy is built up. Everything is built for them. And this is the common theme that I'm hearing amongst Black people. I heard yesterday, or was it yesterday, or was it some other? It was yesterday or another on another live stream, where a woman was talking about, you know, how she doesn't want to go to Africa for more than a few months because it's not comfortable for her. And I'm like, the whole point of going to a place that's undeveloped
it's
is to develop it.
right, but then we talk about how we built the pyramids, how we taught the white man how to take a bath, how we built America, how we built pyramids in Mexico. But then, like I said, when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa, we got all types of excuses. So why we can't do anything.
Right, exactly. And that kills me. I don't I don't understand it. I don't get it. It just can someone answer that question? Like, why do Black people like being comfortable so much? Why do Black people like being so comfortable? Life is not supposed to be comfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable at certain points in time. And if you're building something, that's going to be very uncomfortable. And you got to get used to being uncomfortable. You got to get used to it.
When I look at Dimona in Israel, it ain't no New York City. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to tell me that about comfortability, like, okay, leaving, you know, first world country, you know, America, and then going to Dimona, the desert in Israel, and saying, well, that's just comfort. They're trying to be comfortable. I don't know about that. Like, I think they really believe that they're the Hebrews of the Bible. You know what I mean? That's their claim to the land.
They're claiming a country that is allied with United States. It is considered a first world country. It's built up. It has nuclear weapons. They're claiming a country that is already established, well established.
It's not, though, because if it was well established, there wouldn't be a problem between them and Palestine. And literally nobody in the region even acknowledges that they're a country, except for Western, you know.
There's a problem. There's a problem between them and Palestine, but Palestine is not really a challenge. Is going to challenge them. It's not really going to.
No, it's not just Palestine. They got Turkey. They got Iran. Saudi Arabia is not even really messing with them. That the United States is trying to force them to, but they're not really messing with them. Egypt. Nobody's really even recognizing them except for like Western-backed, you know, powers. They're recognizing them, but none of the Islamic countries even recognize them as a country. So you can't say, oh, they're established. No, everybody recognizes the United States as a country. There's nobody saying, maybe you got Native Americans, right? But there's no real power saying you guys are not a real country. That's a real thing when it comes to Israel. So you can't say it's established. Matter of fact, to just say that Black Hebrew Israelites are even going over there, I can be like, that's a lot of bravery to even be able to do that, to go into like a war-torn country. Yeah,
you know, if they went to a place like Sudan, or a place like, you know, Ethiopia, somewhere that's undeveloped, then I would say, yeah, that's brave. That's pretty brave. If they went to Afghanistan, I would say that's pretty brave. But going to Israel, there's no bravery required for that. There's absolutely none required.
So living somewhere where you can have bombs drop on your head at any minute, that's not bravery,
sir. You can get shot any minute in the hood.
Yeah, but we're not really worrying about bombs getting, you know, missiles coming into our cities, just hitting us out of nowhere. Like, we don't got to worry about that. Everybody in Israel has to worry about that every single day. That's why they got the Iron Dome.
They have the Iron Dome, right? Exactly. They have a highly advanced missile defense system that protects them from like 99% or some crazy number.
Bro,
of
they got the United States, bro. You know, if the United States
and the United States,
though.
But
if
the
United States didn't back them, they would literally have nothing.
But here's the thing: they do have the United States, and so going there isn't isn't special. It's not. I don't understand. I don't understand why you think it's so brave for them to go there. Like, what is the bravery?
The
And
bravery is,
going
like I
to
said, going there with that type
going
of
to
claim
going
to
to
say,
a
yo, this is our shit, right? And we are the real Hebrews against people.
they are laughing. They are laughing at them. What do you mean they're laughing at a group of delusional black men and some women? It's mostly I think it's mostly black men, but they're laughing at a bunch of dudes that look like extras in a movie about ancient Egypt or or a movie about Moses.
And let me pass it to African Maverick. Go ahead, African Maverick.
Okay.
African Maverick, unmute yourself. All right. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with bravery or even cowardice. It's really they're chasing the victimhood, right? It's all to sell a certain narrative, and at the root of it is the same thing that's at the root of every religious belief: money, right? Ben Amin was a multi-millionaire. Why? Because if he just puts himself in the place that he's lying to these people saying is their homeland, do you understand how much remittance these people get from the states and different places because they are actually in the quote unquote homeland and they're actually acting on their faith and going over to the biblical homeland? That's what this is all about. It's like it's like, you know that saying, in the land, the one-eyed man, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It's like that. They're really just cult leaders who isolate their cult so that they can retain absolute influence and control over that body of people. It's the same thing Jim Jones did. Why did Jim Jones go to Guyana when he could have found a nice, peaceful farm in America? Well, damn, you can't. There's certain shit in America you can't get away with. And people can say, hey, if I could jump in a car and drive down the street and be away from this guy, and you do something that they don't like, they're more tempted to leave. This is the same exact problem that the Church of Scientology is having right now. And if you go do some of the research on the people they literally are holding hostage, legally holding hostage, I mean, have went to the courts and got like orders saying that these people can't leave their compounds and stuff like that, you will understand why cult leaders like Ben Amin and Jim Jones and stuff, they always seek to isolate. Do research on the hundreds of American-based cults that moved down to South America, Argentina, Colombia, stuff like that. Some of which actually made agreements with the governments of those countries to not be interfered, non-interference in agreements with the governments of those countries in exchange for doing wet work and all types of crazy stuff. So this is just par for the course. To sit up and try to associate this with some level of bravery or something is just asinine, right? It's just isolating a group so there won't be any real outside influence. If you can surround a group of people by the enemy, let me tell you, you guys don't read the Bible, I know that, but let me tell you, it's the same strategy that Yahweh used with the Israelites in the Bible. Why would you take a group of people and sit them in the midst of their enemies? Because guess what? If you surround them by threats, that makes them easier for you to control. When something bad happened, that's because y'all not listening. When something good happened, that's because I'm blessing y'all. Yeah, every abuser, Yahweh included, seeks to isolate the person or the group of people they are abusing from any and everybody, or any resource they can use to get away from that person. You take somebody thousands of miles away from America, guess what? They're going to look at you like you're all they got. Ask some of these black people who then went over to Africa and got scammed, went over to Gambia and these different places and got scammed. There's really nothing they can do because there's no resources available to them that can hold those people accountable. So every cult leader is trying to get out of America. The other thing is, we talk about comfort. Oh, yeah, they want to be comfortable. No, it's not. Negroes just don't want to be responsible for anything. That's why Negroes don't build nothing. If black people build a building, right? And when people walked in the building collapsed and killed them. Black people will have to be responsible. Look at this building y'all built. and it fell down. So you know what black people do? We're not building nothing because we're not taking accountability for anything. That's why black people don't even want to open up businesses in their own neighborhood. Because if a black store owner shoot a black kid who's trying to steal or rob his store, we would have to admit that a lot of what happens to us is just, it is not based on race. It's just based on.
Brandon, that's the same exact thing. It's the same thing. Being comfortable and being irresponsible or not being responsible for anything is the same thing. Because when you're comfortable and everything's being taken care of for you, that's the same thing as having no responsibilities.
What I'm telling you is, when you say comfort, right? That's not necessarily true because black people will endure great discomfort as long as they don't have to be responsible for anything. You think a Negro with no job and no way to feed himself is comfortable? You think somebody sleeping under a tent under a bridge is comfortable sleeping on the concrete, a bum? No. But the bum will
That's a
sacrifice.
certain
Wait,
that's a certain
but the
that is
but
yes,
the
that's a
bum,
certain
listen,
level of comfort for them.
but the bum will sacrifice comfort in the sense that we all understand comfort in exchange for not having to be responsible for anything.
The
It's not
majority of
really
black
comfort.
people, but here's the thing: the majority of black people are not bums. But there is an established level of
Mentally,
comfort.
the
There is a
majority of us are.
there is an established level of comfort that black people are used to, especially black people in America, right?
The,
That they
the
want to
majority,
go, that where they go everywhere, they want that same level of comfort wherever they go.
bro, most black people live in the hood. You go to Africa Dynast, you can admit to this. Some places I go in Africa are a million times better than the projects in America. Yet you got black people talk about.
Most black people don't live in the hood.
Yes, they do.
Come on
Most
now,
black people do live in the
come
hood.
on now.
Oh my God. All right. Listen to what I'm telling you. Black people will talk down on a place. Sorry, can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we
Hello?
hear you. We hear you. We hear
Okay.
you.
Most black people will live in squalor. Go down to the Mississippi Delta and stuff like that. Same black person will be like, I ain't going to no Africa. They ain't even got TVs over there. They don't even got shoes over there. It has nothing to do with comfort because in America, black people are in a level of extreme discomfort. It only has to do with, do I have to be responsible?
It's a level of comfort that they're used to.
No,
And
listen.
Africa and America are not interchangeable. You
The
can't go to
reason why
Africa
black people,
and have the same exact lifestyle as you have in America. You can't do
brother,
that.
do your
Not at the
best to
same
wrap
level of
your
income.
brother, do your best to wrap your mind around this idea. Black people was in the South getting lynched, hung from their neck, genitals getting cut off, and their bodies burned. They still stayed down South. Black people, comfort is not even a metric for Negroes. It's all about, do I have to be responsible for my own existence? And the reason why America is appealing to Negroes, even though they constantly complain about it being racist and this that, is because America takes the responsibility off of the Negro for being responsible for his own life. Go to welfare, we will pay for you. Go to Section 8, we will house you. We will close you. We'll do all that. Even though we beating you
That
and
is the
shooting you
same
up in the
thing.
street.
That's the same thing as being comfortable.
Okay.
Because
All right.
when
For
they
you, that is.
when they house you and feed you and give you everything that you need and you have no responsibilities, guess what? That's comfortable. That's
Okay.
comfortable.
What I'm telling you is, black people are not comfortable because if we we wouldn't be complaining all the time. Comfort means you're not complaining. Black people are
Comfort
constantly
means
complaining.
no. Comfort means you're not willing to change your
Dynast, name
circumstances.
one person who is comfortable in complaining. Have you ever experienced that in your life? I'm real comfortable, but I'm complaining. The two don't. They're opposed.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That don't. Yeah, no, you're right.
This is what I'm telling you. Black people are very uncomfortable in America, whether it's because of their entitlement or just ridiculous expectations. The point is, you are not complaining if you're comfortable. A woman is not comfortable in a marriage, but she's complaining every day. She will tolerate it because she doesn't have to go get off her ass and work. But if she's complaining, she's not comfortable. Just
The
like
girl,
I'm telling you.
the girl yesterday, or was it yesterday? I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Another live another live presentation like this, literally said that she couldn't stay in Africa for more than 3 to 4 months because she wasn't comfortable. She literally said that. That black people are telling you to your face what they're willing and not willing to do, and you're saying, well, it's not comfort, it's they just don't want to take responsibility. Nigga, that's the same exact thing. It's the
Right.
same
And when
thing.
she says she's not comfortable, that simply means she has to take responsibility for things that she doesn't have to be responsible for in America. That's the difference. If you got to carry your water, you're responsible as to whether there's any water or not. But if you in America, you could just turn the faucet, and if the water come out black, guess what? You could blame somebody else for that. Like in Flint, Michigan. What group of people on earth will sit up in a city with lead in the water and then just instead of just getting the hell out of there, sit there and say the lead in the water is poisoning the kids? Black folks. Because why? As long as they don't have to take responsibility for the water being poisonous, they're okay with being there. They're not
Sure.
comfortable. They're not comfortable having to take.
Here's the thing. You can call it responsibility. You can call it them not wanting to step up or whatever it is you want to call it, right? It's the same thing. You're basically saying the same thing as I am saying. You're
Was
not
black,
saying anything
listen,
different.
were black people in slavery comfortable getting beaten stuff? No. But the reality was they feared venturing out. Many of them, most of them feared venturing out on their own because they were like, how are we going to take care of ourselves? What are we going to do? We don't know what to do without massa. So they just stayed on the plantation and would discourage others from leaving, right? So that's not comfort. You're under great duress, but you just don't know anything else. And that's what these people say when I'm not going to Africa. It's not that you're super happy with the situation you're in. You just don't know anything and you don't want to be responsible if you try something and it don't work. This is black people have a childlike mindset. This is kind of how children operate. They're just kind of like, look, I just was talking to my nephew this morning. When he argues with me or tries to make his point, he doesn't realize that his point is totally void of accountability. He's looking at it like, dude, you're supposed to be responsible for me. And I'm like, you're right. That's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. But why are you telling me that? Because I'm responsible for telling you that. He doesn't connect the dots, and he's 17. That's most black people's mindset. Unfortunately for us, black people think if somebody holds them accountable, like say there's a law, no jaywalking. Okay, black person jaywalks, gets a ticket, that's racist. It's not because they broke the law. It's because some unseen entity is executing racism against them because they don't like them because they're black. No, you literally knew the rule, you broke the rule, and you got held accountable. Our whole thing is dodging and evading responsibility and accountability for anything at all. And if you hold us accountable, you are a racist.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Like, accountability, responsibility, all of those things are they're all connected. These are all connected concepts. Comfort. The level of comfort is relative. So if you're comfortable living in a tent, I know people that literally live down the street from where I live, and they've been living in a tent for 10 years. They're comfortable. That's comfort. Because it's not enough discomfort for them to want to get out of that situation, but it's just enough comfort for them to keep, stay in that situation. So it's all relative. Comfortability is relative. And that's what I'm saying. Black people are relatively comfortable in a first world society like America, where you're right, they don't have any responsibilities. They're not responsible for nothing. They don't have to build anything. Everything is built up for them. Everything is done for them. So that's what I'm saying. It's all relative. So the relative level of comfort that they enjoy in a first world society like America is going to be very, very disrupted in a place like, Sierra Leone or something like that, right? It's going to be disrupted because they're not going to be able to get the same things they're able to get in America. And that's a disruption, too much of a disruption to them. So despite all the racism, despite, the white man doing this and that, despite all the complaints, they still have a relative level of comfort that they're okay with. They're okay with the racism. They're okay with it. Because if they weren't okay with it, they wouldn't just put up with it. Which is what black people do. They just basically put up with racism in America. So that's my point.
I don't think a single black person is comfortable living in a dangerous neighborhood and all that stuff. The reality is they're not going to go talk to the gang member because they don't want to be responsible for what's going to happen to them or anybody else if they do. Black folks are just like, hey, I don't care as long as I don't want to be responsible for it. That's why they move to white neighborhoods. They're like, I want to go somewhere where someone else is responsible for this. Why do you think black people buy condos and move into gated communities? Because they don't want to be responsible for anything. Let me go. I will spend millions of dollars so someone else could take the responsibility for me. Whether they're comfortable or not, they don't want to take responsibility. That's the reality. That's why I'm telling you, comfort level has nothing to do with it. Even Negroes with money and stuff don't invest or nothing because they don't want to be responsible for what happens with their own money.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, I don't know how many times, I don't know how many ways I can tell you, but what you're saying and what I'm saying are basically the same thing. And that is, they don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to they want to be comfortable. It's the same exact thing. You're just saying it a different way. And so we both have the same basic issue with black people as a culture. And so you're coming at it from the point of responsibility. I'm coming at it from the point of comfort. But we're basically saying the same thing.
Well, the whole entire process of leaving the United States and going to another country to settle down is kind of complicated. Got to get all your paperwork straightened out. You got to get your citizenship in another country. And a lot of African Americans in this country, they're just barely getting by trying to figure out how to pay their light bill and get groceries in their refrigerator. So, until black people in the United States get themselves to a level of comfortability where they figure they got their lives figured out, I don't think they're going to
Exactly.
Nah, tell that. Hey, no. Come back during tax season and tell that lie. Niggas get everything they want to get. If a nigga want the new Charger, poverty and the chains of hell, Hades couldn't hold them back. We always play this game. Oh, black people are disenfranchised and shit. I know niggas who live in the projects driving freaking $75,000 cars. Whatever they want, they get. Stop making excuses.
Yeah, but they're driving Chargers in the hood because they selling weed or cocaine on the side, and they don't know who's going to be their.
Okay, so sell those things to get the things you need. That's so funny because black people used to use that during the crack era. Oh, I gotta sell dope because there ain't nobody hiring. Nobody want to hire me. But the funny thing was, when they got the money, none of them actually ever moved out of the hood. Very few. They was buying gold rims and BBSs and shit like that. This is just a lie that black people continuously tell. Oh, I'm doing this because I'm poor. You're a liar. You're doing this because you want to have disposable income to splurge on bullshit. Those guys go sell weed. Okay, instead of buying a $70,000 car, why don't you use that to buy the $150,000 or $500,000 house? Because the car is what they want. The flash is what they want. It has nothing to do with inability to get money or the desire to get out of poverty, because the people that they want to impress live in those impoverished communities.
Yeah, but anytime you got dirty money and you got to go through the government to get your passport to live in another country, now you're putting a spotlight on yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if those guys necessarily want to go the right route. And then you got your regular people that have the regular 9 to 5 and they just barely getting by.
So now the government is tracking $175. Come on, man. The arguments fall in on themselves. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves with these type of arguments. Ain't no government on earth tracking $175 to buy a passport, bro.
No, they're not going to track $175 to buy a passport, but they are going to track you when you spend 10 grand to go across.
You don't need 10 grand to go overseas. You don't need no 10 grand to go to Africa. You need
No, you
one,
don't.
2,000 tops.
Yeah, yeah. But how
Come
much?
on, man. This little money y'all talking about is just BS.
How much you need to settle down?
Is this person even trying to settle down if they don't even have a passport? If they're not even trying to buy a passport?
Yeah,
This is what I'm telling you. We're talking about two totally different types of people. I doubt the drug dealer, unless we Nas on belly, is trying to go to Africa. You know what I'm saying? These people live where they are and they perpetuate what goes on in their neighborhood because they want to be the big fish in the small pond. They just want to be the hottest nigga in the neighborhood. That's it. That's why they don't go and get the money and say, let me go move to Beverly Hills. They stay right in freaking Jordan Downs projects. They stay right in freaking the jungles in LA. And Beverly Hills about 15, 20 minutes away from him. Nigga won't even go to Roof Chris for his kid's birthday. He'll go to a hood park that's gonna get shot up. These people don't want anything better than that because they don't want to be responsible for that. They don't want to be like, Daddy, you took me to a nice restaurant and I want to go back. They're like, nah, let's just keep their ass in the hood. So they don't expect nothing more than this.
yeah. It's just they live in their hood every day. They wake up, they get high, they get drunk, and then they wake up and go to sleep and then do the same shit they did the day before. The next day is like they're not forward thinking. You know what I'm saying? So once we get our head out of our asses and start to plan and move forward, I don't think a mass exodus will ever happen. You know what I'm saying? It's just we're too. You say we're comfortable, or people say we're comfortable. I think we're comfortable living in swallow because we can forget about our problems by just picking up a fifth of Hennessy and rolling up a joint. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly my point. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is that we are relatively more comfortable living in places like the hood, you know, and then we would be in Africa, you know. And Brandon has a point too. We don't have any responsibilities either. He's right. We don't have any responsibilities, and we're too comfortable, and that's the reality.
Let me pass,
That's why black people behave in the way that they do. That boils down to that.
let me pass it to Idris. Go ahead, Idris, and then pass it to Mr. Research. Go ahead, Idris. Something with yourself. Idris.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, people. Good afternoon, Dynast. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I like the discussion. It's relevant to our people, and I think anything that's progressive for Black people is important. You know, like the idea that we should aspire for bigger things. I think that's always important. And I get the idea of racism and some of its impact in the past and present day for Black people. But most times I come to your program, Dynas, I always try to emphasize on the idea of us looking at our present and future as achievable possibilities. Like we should always see things that they can be achieved. Really, I don't see the hidden hand as much as people make it to be, that there is somebody at the dark alleys trying to stop you from being successful. Because I feel like America, we can say anything about here, but from my perspective as an African immigrant, I think we see more opportunities. Possibly it's because of where we came from, there is not much. But when we come here, we see a lot. Like we see that everywhere you turn, there is some kind of opportunity to grow. So that is why most immigrants from Africa make it, because when we are back home, those opportunities were not there as much as they are here, And when we come, we try to achieve as much as we can. The problem sometimes with going back home with it is that it's not as easy to go and, I try to do the little I can do, but it's not as easy to go back and set up those things. It's not that the people are not aspiring for more, because I tell you, people would die to chase that success in Africa. It's just that leaders are not making it easy for us to get to that destination. That's the problem. But to say the people are, like are satisfied with little, I don't think it's true in Africa.
Stop interrupting.
Africans, he was done.
Stop
He was wrapping up.
interrupting.
Anyway, thank you, host of the show. Anyway,
You are
Africans
constantly
don't
centering yourself.
go
You're
back because of
constantly
the same
centering
reason.
yourself. You're
Africans,
constantly centering yourself. Let him
this man
finish.
is literally
You're
upset
constantly
with me.
centering yourself. Let him
Okay,
finish.
what's wrong with that? Why
Let
does
him
my
finish.
shine hurt you?
Let him finish.
Why he
Hold
was
on,
done?
okay, one
Finish.
mic. Idris,
Let him
were you,
finish.
Idris, were you done?
He was done.
Hold
No,
on,
he wasn't.
Brandon,
You
hold on,
interrupted me.
one mic. Idris, were you done? Idris, are you there?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I said, were you done?
Yeah, he can talk. Yeah.
You
All right.
can't. You don't possess the intelligence to know when someone's wrapping up their comment.
You forced
Come on,
him. Go ahead. He's
try
being
to.
I didn't
polite.
force him.
He's being
All right,
polite.
whatever.
You're being
All right, man. What are you
Go
being?
ahead. You got the microphone. Center yourself again. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. That whatever I do makes you jealous. That's okay. You tell your mom to have a smarter son. Anyway, but the point is, Africans don't go back for the same reason black people don't lead a hood. They don't want to be responsible for it. Once they get to America and they start getting some bread and acquiring the trappings of Western life, they're like, why would I go back home where everyone's going to be looking at me for like, yo, what are we going to do next? Hey, I need this, I need that, I need this, that, and the other. Right? So people could say Africans can make whatever excuse they want. You're not going back because you don't want everybody looking at you as the source of economic uplift. That's it. Stop making excuses. Oh, it's because this, it's because that. Nigga, you do not want to go back to the village. You do not want your whole family trying to borrow money from you every 5 minutes. It's the same reason black people lead a hood. And then we try to make this bullshit excuse. Stop it. Stop yourself. That's the
All right.
problem with our people.
But Too
going
much
back to
all right, let's say you go back to the village in Africa, it's actually cheaper to do that than live in the cities. But let's be real. The idea of going back home is not necessary. It's not just about that, because you can go to Africa and not give nobody nothing,
It's
and you just try to
do that.
develop. It's
It's cheaper
to
do that in the city. It's cheaper to do that, but what you're doing in the city is for you. See, if somebody will spend wait, listen, someone will spend $100,000 on themselves like it's nothing, but ask that same person to spend $10 on the next person, and it's a difficult task. It's easy to spend on yourself, but when it's somebody else you're giving the money to.
Saying it's much more difficult to do it in the city than in the villages. But if you go back, you don't want to give somebody nothing. You can't do it and not give nobody nothing. There are people that go back. Some of the problem, what I'm talking about is not about going back. I'm talking about going and investing in some sense of or form of it. It's not as easy as we see it, because sometimes, I mean, I had a project. I remember a long time I think I spoke about that I bought like a 4-acre land just outside of Freetown. And I started fencing, trying to do, because I was trying to do like a farm, fish farm and poultry. When I started fencing, the person that sold me the land sold half of the land and the best part of that land behind my back. And what it became
Yeah, man, you're
that most of the time you go back to court, and that years and years to settle that. And what happened is you keep losing money over something that don't make sense. So that's why I'm saying some of those complications are there. That's why some people try to invest way bigger than me back home. And what happened is they lose their money, and then they feel like, I don't have to keep doing this. I rather just stay here where, yes, there are issues, but it's not like that kind, like, that I have to, first of all, for me to even get the land paper complete, I had to pay people more than what was officially I was meant to pay. And when I got those papers, finished all of that, started fencing, building walls and everything in the land, what happened? I have to go to court because the land is not fully mine. Someone sold it. And, it's crazy sometimes the way things happen. So I'm just trying to tell you, there are so many other reasons why people don't go back. I'm not even saying you going back by yourself, but just the investing back is not as easy sometimes.
All right, let me pass it to Mr. Research. Go ahead.
So let's deal with sub-Saharan first. The sub-Saharan line, 1980, got moved. 1995, it got moved again. Now the Sudan War, it's been moved again. There's no such thing as sub-Saharan. It's a political statement. There is sub-Britain, nobody talks about. There is sub-Europe, nobody talks about. Arab nation uses sub-Saharan as a political statement to move the needle. It's different from if it was truly sub-Saharan, the line would stay the same. It would not move after every time there's a war. But that is strategic. The other thing is what Idris is talking about is the same thing we went over here. A guy from Arkansas is poor. Okay. A guy from Arkansas doesn't have much. But if he doesn't have a lot of policies breathing down his neck, then he walks through life like, hey, I'm just living. My father grew up in Mississippi. My mother grew up in Arkansas. 45 minutes from each other, had two different Black experiences, because where my mother grew up was an area where the white people was not creating a bunch of negative policies. They were kumbaya to a degree with their Black people, as opposed to my father, who was constantly subjugated with policies and sharecropper laws and all this type of stuff. If that poor person leaves and go to Germany tomorrow, of course they're going to do well, because Germany doesn't have all them stupid policies. If they leave and go to Canada, of course they're going to do well. So when Africans leave, they forget it has less to do with all this other stuff people make it up. It's the same identical thing the Africans dealing with. It's a government issue. You come here before NAFTA, you wouldn't have an easy ride. You had to wait 1 to 3 years just to get employment. Wasn't a bunch of contract jobs, wasn't a bunch of temp jobs. Most of this stuff was union. Policy. But when the policy changed under Clinton and Bush, now it's a free-for-all. Now it's changed. So what that means is everybody that's making money right now, if they were to change the policy tomorrow, within 4 years, all that money would change. It would be different. So a lot of times people come here and they say, oh, look at the opportunities. But just like Idris said, I go back and my government is so jacked up. The policies are jacked up. I buy some land. Somebody done simultaneously sold half of the land that I thought I had full ownership of. Now I'm getting policed. I come back 5-6 years later. There's a war that happened. A bunch of little child soldiers, 8th graders, 6th graders with sub-automatic weapons done took over the area. Now I no longer own the land. A lot of stuff can happen. It's all about policies. So when people come to America, you're coming after a lot of policies have changed, and we don't have the lock you up for profit Ronald Reagan stuff. We don't have the crack. I tell Africans all the time, if you had a Ronald Reagan and he was to put crack cocaine in your bushmeat tomorrow, it would take you 12 years to realize you was addicted. Because that's exactly what Reagan did. He put it in what y'all would call vape right now. Y'all vaping. He went and put it up in there because he wanted a war with the Sandinistas. Go watch the movie Air America. So when we want to make this stuff great again, we got to research. Having feelings about topics, having a gossip and assumptions about topics, that's not educated. That's not a college mentality. Y'all too old for that. We got to research these opinions. Opinions just means you got feelings. You literally don't do research. That's what opinions mean. Go look it up in the dictionary. Opinions, feelings without facts. I don't know why grown people are happy to say they have feelings with no facts. You shouldn't do that. And I'm going to end by saying this here. The policies that are happening against Africans is going to backfire against Africans, because you have too many people helping other folks. Britain is gone, but now a new people are coming in. You got Russia over there, you got China over there, and still nobody's fighting for the policies. Sweden is finna get rid of their refugees. Everybody's getting tired of it. So when you get a new policy for Americans and Africans, and you so happy you making 100,000 and now it's dwindled to 50,000, don't get upset. Just remember I told you, you got to understand how these policies work. You got to research, because somebody will pass a policy tomorrow and you won't make that good money you're making, and then you'll be mad, wondering how it got this way. But your children will be born into it and they'll think, well, Daddy, it's normal. It's normal for us to make 50,000. We're Black.
All right, cool. Let's see. Links in the chat room. Link. Oh, here we go, Jonathan. Jonathan on. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, my bad. I had to call my wife. But I just want to say I don't like this whole little bashing of Black people in the hood shit. Because one, I mean, I think around 15% of Black people actually live in poverty. It's kind of like we say that 50% represents the group of Black people in mass. And they don't. And Brandon, he ain't on here. But I'm still gonna reply to his dumbass statements about Black people not wanting to leave the hood. If Brandon would just move to Kenya for 1 year, just one full year, and show him living in Kenya, maybe he might inspire some niggas to leave the hood and go be in Kenya or some shit like that. But we don't want to hear from a nigga that just went on vacation, decided to get a little bit of a little property or rent an apartment or some shit like that and put it on Airbnb. Move. Be an example of what you're talking about. And leave Black people in America alone. That's all I want to say, bro.
So stay right here. I'm gonna take up Jonathan's position. I mean, Brand. Even though I don't really like Brand, I'm gonna take up his position on this point. Black males have a cultural problem in the hood. I'm from the block. Sold the dope, had girls on the track, the whole nine. But I did.
Do you still do that?
No, I was about to finish. I was about to answer your question. But I did that at 16. My thing is this. When we did this stupid, idiotic nonsense, even I recognized it looked like it was killing the community. And I switched up. I went square. My point is, at some point in time, the hood guy got to stop having it both ways. He can't say, hey, protect me with Black pride while I kick in the door of this Black family. Protect me with Black pride while I smash in the window of this car so I can steal something that easily I can go to KFC and become an assistant manager and get 60 grand, 70 grand a year. Easily I can go get in the darn McDonald's program and make 80 grand a year. But I refuse to do that. I'd rather not even go to the white community and steal from there, because I know it'd be a greater charge. I want to go against Black only because I'm out here in the Black hood. At some point in time, the hood has to see that as damaging. We can't have young Black boys in the hood be the new Ku Klux Klan, killing our best and brightest just because they want to be educated, killing our best and brightest just because they want to play tennis, killing our best and brightest just because they don't want to be part of the Black male childishness.
Just out of curiosity, because that shit sounds wild, brother. You got the statistics on that? Or are you talking about some shit that happened and the media just blew it up like that's the fucking norm? Like niggas in the hood are just out there looking for the smartest motherfucker and then shoot him because it ain't real. You mean shit happens? We could point that out in every goddamn community in America, in every community in Africa. Why is it that we want to blow the shit up over here like it's the norm and it's not?
So I'll answer your question.
Go ahead, brother.
It would be one thing if it was just fist fights only with those dudes. But these dudes is bringing out guns. These dudes is mobbing up. I did a video the other day of how the two dudes on Joe Budden's show, old like 35, 36, talking about if they baby mama hired a male nanny, they would go up there and beat up the dude, and they wouldn't even fight him straight up. They would gang fight him. That's a mentality. I'm speaking to the mentality of us in the hood, because I'm from the block. I'm from Oakland.
For sure. How old are you, sir?
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
The mentality of us from the block, we have to understand that a lot of this is a poison upon ourselves. And that's the point that Brandon said it in an effed up way. I agree. But that's the point. Dudes got to stop with the whole nonsense. I'm 45, brother. How old are you?
I'm 34, getting ready to be 35 in December.
What industry are you in?
Tech.
Okay, tech. Go ahead, brother.
So you would agree that when you were growing up, that y'all was heavily into the drug game. It's not like the drug game is popping out in the Bay Area anymore like that. You know that, right?
Yeah, we couldn't get jobs. So I'm answering your
right.
question.
Wait, and when y'all couldn't get jobs, that's why you turned to the streets, correct?
We couldn't get jobs. We had people here doing corporate welfare. They had businesses here claiming they was hiring people from the community just so they wouldn't pay their $1 million land tax. But in actuality, they wasn't hiring nobody from the community. So yes, we had it because of lack of jobs.
I'll agree with that, but you would also agree that you did it. Younger kids seeing you and y'all were shining and balling, and they decided to be like you rather than go be like the nerds that wasn't doing shit, right?
No, that's not true. Not here in the Bay, because we're different.
So there's a gang in Oakland.
So tell me when I can answer.
But there's a gang in Oakland, right? There was a gang in Oakland called Nutcase.
Oakland don't have
gang. Nutcase ain't a gang.
Oakland
Nutcase wasn't a gang.
Oakland don't have gangs.
You live in Oakland currently?
Yeah, Oakland don't have gangs.
So P-Team, Money Team, Case Gang, they literally call themselves Case Gang, the cases, the fours, the threes, all of these, they're not gangs.
So no, they're not.
Okay.
So here's what a gang is. A gang is similar to like these Crips and Bloods, like these Vice Lords. The dudes you're talking about is just a clique of dudes who pimp and rob. They're not a gang. They're just a clique of dudes. It's kind of like the one rapper, Filthy Rich, and his brother. Filthy Rich and his brother have a pimp empire. They're not a gang. They have a pimp empire. The empire is probably like 30, 50 dudes who all pimping. That's not a gang. That's just a group of dudes that done clicked up and called themselves something. So no, we don't have gangs. Just to prove we don't have gangs, you can go from East Oakland to West Oakland, North Oakland, and not get in no trouble. Because you go into somebody.
Wait, what do you mean you can't get in trouble? Because the gang niggas are out there destroying the hood. I mean, the smart dudes. What do you mean you can't get in no trouble? Because if you can move freely like that, then everything that Brendan said was bullshit out the gate. That means they're not just attacking normal ass people like, Brendan made it sound like he said. You mean that they attack each other?
Yeah, that part of Brandon's speech is on BS. The only part of Brandon's speech I agree with is because I've personally seen it. I'm the type of dude who always fought back, and I won most of my fights. But other people, I would have to protect other people from some of these dudes. So I have a lived experience with it. These dudes would hunt down people that didn't want to fight back, and it was normally the nerds. These dudes, I mean, even when I was in Brownsville, it was like that. When I was in Atlanta, Washington Road, it was like that. The over in Decatur, over by South DeKalb Mall, it was like that. West End, where Diners used to be, was like that.
I'm still here.
Dudes would hunt down dudes who didn't want to be involved in the nonsense. And that's just a real thing. I've lived in like.
So that was like back in your day, when shit was actually dangerous.
Recent. That was even more recent, brother. That wasn't just 90s. That was 2001. I left Atlanta 2015. That's how it is.
I'm specifically just talking about.
My point is this. I'm gonna let you have the last word. My point is this: we have a black male culture that needs to improve beyond fist fights. We got to start out thinking stuff. We got to get beyond fist fighting everything. Go ahead, brother. You got the last word.
Okay. In defense of the black male culture, if majority of black males were out there shooting each other up, then you can say that's a black male culture. It's dead wrong to go around and make it seem like black culture is killing people, selling drugs, pimping bitches, and shit like that. When you talk about a small percentage of people, because if we do that, well, then all white people are mass shooters at that point, right? Or then all Mexicans are fucking part of the cartel. All Africans are coaches, and they kill each other and they sacrifice their family for money. And that's their culture. You wouldn't disrespect people and be like, oh, this is your culture. This is what y'all do, because this small percentage of the people do this shit. As if that represents the majority. That's fucked up. Why would we say that about our own people? Did y'all mama go around killing shit? Did your daddy go around killing shit? Diners, you killing shit? I don't think so.
We say
so. Why do we say it like it's the majority? And then we say that shit's our culture. And then we say that shit's our culture. And then you get other races and other people like, oh yeah, that's black culture. You saying it. You adopting their beliefs.
So
Martin Luther King.
So we say it because we need to have an honest conversation, even if you think we're wrong in saying it.
If it's an honest conversation would be honest if this was the majority.
You don't want me to finish this point, huh? You want to just fist fight.
No, we're not fist fighting. We're talking.
Okay.
No, if we're going to have an honest conversation,
tell me when I have.
Jonathan, I'm trying to hear.
Go ahead.
Research.
Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, Mr. Research.
Yeah, respectfully, brother. This is what I'm talking about. If I just politely let you speak, and then I try to answer your question, then you jump down my throat. That's fist fighting. That's the point. I just want us as black men to have decorum. You know what I'm saying? So even if I'm wrong, I'm just saying, let's have the discussion and you could share with the people how I'm wrong. But for us as black men to just say, hey, let's just keep it in the shadows. Let's not talk no more. We don't get nothing that way. And when everybody finished, then I would like to get back to Africa. But go ahead, Mr. Jonathan.
Well, I wanted to say that in regards to what Brandon was saying about taking responsibility and culpability, as a black man, if you have a faction or a group of black youth that are tearing down the neighborhood with the violence and with the other things that they're doing with the crime, and you do nothing about it, then you're just as culpable as the people that's doing the wrong thing.
That's bad.
So
I disagree.
I agree.
So for instance, if you take your kid to school and your kid is getting in fights, you know what I'm saying, tearing shit down every day, and the teacher asks the parent, how come your kid is acting out? and you as a parent, you don't do anything about it, then you're just as culpable as the delinquent child. So as black men, you know what I mean, the rest of, the people in the world, and even the black woman, they look at us as just as culpable as the people that's doing wrong. So that's another thing about taking responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So even if you can even look at like some of the Italian gangsters, you know what I'm saying? They'll tear shit up. They'll be on some gangster shit, you know what I'm saying? Or allow people to come into their neighborhood and tear their shit down, but they'll fuck up your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as men, it comes a point where you have to take responsibility for the own shit that's going down in your own hood. And if you don't take responsibility for that, then you're just as culpable.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I mean, I agree with the. I agree with being responsible for your, the actions of your children. But as far as being culpable of or being
people around the city, we don't even know them. You're responsible for them. That's wild.
Let me tell y'all a story though.
Go ahead.
I'm from East Palo Alto, California, and we got a little gang down there. These brother. They got killers in this little gang. It's small. It's not, they don't have chapters all over the place, right? So anyway, they got little hot spots where people buy drugs. That's it. That's where a lot of the problems is. The deaths are. At one point, we were the nation's murder capital in 1992. The nation's murder capital per capita in 1992. Little East Palo Alto, only 30,000 people, 2.5 square miles. So we have a large Pacific Islander population, Tongans, Samoans, Fijians, and there were never any Polynesian dope dealers. And these young dudes were, they were regular, they were fitting in. So they had the culture, they had the temperament to be out there doing it. So there was one that was out there. Now, I didn't see this, but I know I was friends with, the community, with the people who were doing community stuff, the Polynesians. So the word got out that one of the little dudes, young man, and they big too. They big. A lot of them are just big. He's out there selling weed or something, and a little pickup truck, mini Toyota truck with about 4 or 5 Polynesian men in it, drives up to the corner, beats him down, throws him in the back of the Toyota truck. And from then on, and that was the first, probably the only Polynesian selling whatever. You never saw any more Polynesian young dudes or anyone selling anything in East Palo Alto. That's a form of responsibility. And that is probably, it doesn't have to take that form, but to some degree, we've got to be on that level of serious. We got to be serious enough to be able to deal with our communities in areas. So in whatever areas that we're in, it might be 4 square blocks, where we have block, what do they call those? Neighborhood block groups, associations, whatever. We meet with our blocks. I'm saying this can be done, and this is how people do campaigns and do other kinds of things. They organize by blocks. So we can be responsible in that way, but we don't want to be responsible like that for our communities. We need to study why we're not doing those things. We need to, instead of pointing the finger, we need to really do a methodical method. You guys know what I'm trying to say. We need to study and see why we're not doing it, and then come up with some of the things we know to do to deal with those types of problems. Got to be responsible. So that's,
you would admit that back in the days they used to do that. That was like a generation before us or the one before that one. At some point, Black people were organized through either some kind of Black political organization or some Black church, mosque, something. We were all organized under something. But at some point, people decided to revolt against the church, the mosque, and everything else. And they just woke up thinking that religion and everything was bad. And they decided to go their own way. and now no one has any respect for religious leaders or some political leaders. We want to organize, but at the same time, we don't respect our own leaders at the same time. That's not even possible. Because as soon as you try to organize, someone's going to try to clown you or make it seem like, oh man, you just want to be this person or be that person. Because generations literally destroyed our faith in our own leaders. I mean, Louis Farrakhan, I heard people talk shit about the guy. For what? I mean, I don't agree with their philosophy or they religious belief, but the dude's a hero in my book. Call it Muhammad.
Let me
Even Al Sharpton to a degree. I mean, we hate our leaders. So this idea that we gonna organize and do some shit like that, we don't have respect for our own leaders. So the idea that we're gonna organize is bullshit. It's not even possible. You got to show respect for the older people first before you try to do anything else.
Let's pass it to Philip. Go ahead, Philip.
Hey, Dinas, how you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Hello, panel. I'm digging the new Jonathan Miller. I love the rebrand. And
man, what's this rebrand talk?
I'm just messing with you, brother. It's good to hear from you, Shah, Mr. Sandman, and Sile Trey. Thank you for a moment of your time. I'm glad you did this topic today, Brandon. I mean, not Brandon. Didn't have to say. I tried to go back and listen, but let me just get to my points, and then I'm gonna duck out. First thing is, I am not a person to really speak on this, but just from this standpoint, we are talking about street business and essentially what I see as tribalism as Black economics. And that in and of itself is problematic because these are not actual businesses. These street businesses, the Black market economy stuff, that is not something that you can pass down or that you can build an asset with, that you can sell. It's not. But we talk about them, and I'm saying we as Black Americans, we as Africans, talk about these things as if it's legitimate business. It's not. It is Black market economy tribalism. And because it is that, it can be easily taken away by the state. It's not inheritable. And it basically resets our generations each time. So basically you have a start over with each generation of people. That doesn't work. It's not functional. The second point I want to make is an issue that I guess we need to talk about, which is the predisposition of our Constitution towards monopoly and why that affects Black business in a certain way. So now I'm coming off of the street business issue to when you do deal with Black businesses, we have hierarchies within that. And I'm just going to give you one example of what I'm talking about. I am sure all of us are familiar with Ebony Magazine and Jet Magazine. Ebony Magazine and its founder, John H. Johnson, actively pursued other Black businesses that were magazines and Black, what did they make? Cosmetic lines, and actively fought for the white advertising dollars and put these Black businesses out of business. He did that for decades. And if you doubt me on this, you can go and get Earl Graves, the founder of Black Enterprise, his book. And he says in that book very clearly that John Johnson actively pursued him and pushed him out of business. And the only reason why he survived was because he, Earl Graves, had worked with Bobby Kennedy on the Kennedy campaign in '68. And he went to the Kennedys and convinced Chemical Bank, which is now Chase Bank, to give him a bridge loan. And that is why Black Enterprise survived the onslaught of Ebony Jet Johnson Enterprises. It is a fact. And if you go amongst our Black business class, our small Black business class, you will see that this kind of monopoly business activity goes on regularly, where a larger Black business that is established eats the smaller Black businesses. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing it up because in order for these street people to become legitimate business people, they have to have an environment, they have to have soil to build small business. And presently, because of the way that our laws work, that they do not. So we have this huge gap of people that want to work and people that want to start businesses, but they can't get further than the corner store or the neighborhood grocery. They can't scale. And that's a problem, because when we talk about trying to bridge to sub-Saharan Africa, we don't have presently the institutions to do the reach. Not all of us. Some of us can, but most of us cannot. And why is that? Well, there's another thing, which is our Black businesses. I mean, our Black banks. We have allowed from 1950 to 2001 to allow our Black banks to get regulated out of business. And I point you to the last surviving bank in Black Chicago, where the Bank of Ghana came in there. You can Google the article by ProPublica. And they were put out of business. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because how do you get your corner cleaner, your corner rib joint to become a franchise to be able to reach into Africa? You have to have Black banks. And ideally, what you need is African banks within those Black communities that can help us scale so that we have circular economics. Now, I'm bringing these things up to say, look, it's very obvious why we have the problem. We have a bunch of people with labor skills, but nowhere to plug them in. We need sockets. And that's where sub-Saharan Africa should be directed. That's what we should be trying to build. We should try to build sockets in Africa for our plugs, because our effort to do that here is not working out. And there are a lot of reasons why it's not, but I gave a few. So I put a lot out there, and I'm going to go to the panel.
So Mr. Phillip.
I got a quick one right here. This is perfect. I've been studying and researching this steel company that never went online. It was 98% finished in 95. Started in 79. 1983, it was 92% finished. Project with Russia and Nigeria. Nigeria, only thing they had to do in 1983, when it was 92% finished, is bring their 400 million. The other part of that is they needed to complete or get going the infrastructure to bring the iron ore to this steel plant. Largest steel plant in Africa at that time, still may be if it ever goes online. So this is called Ajaokuta Steel Company in Ajaokuta, Kogi State, right? So in the process of this plant being built, it was $1 billion project. Between 1979 and probably to date, $9 billion has gone toward the completion of the steel company, and it was never, and four consecutive presidencies had passed through. There's a few coups, military coups in these 4 consecutive presidencies. This one project alone would have brought 400,000 jobs to Kogi State, to that project. It would have brought in $50 billion a year. And there are, other than people just, siphoning money off of this project, the leaders, politicians, whoever, there's some other things going on with that whole thing, because today they spend about $700 million on importing steel, and the largest steel that they produce is from scrap metal in Nigeria today. So this would be a great project for us for what you're talking about, Philip, is getting that steel company completed, and as a collaborative or co sponsorship, kind of deal where we have African American investment and with Nigerian investment to complete the project, move all of the red tape out of the way, deal with some of the state leaders, like they just hired this woman, Natasha Okpoti. I saw her do a presentation a few years ago. Recently, but she did it a few years ago in front of the assembly, talking about a lot of the details of why that project didn't work. Anyway, that would be the perfect project to work with Nigeria on getting a project going and being able to have oversight with making sure that it gets to going online. Boom.
I could not agree with you more. If I may just respond really quick and then throw it back to the panel. That is exactly what I'm talking about, Shah. But we got to now flip to the other side. What's going on over there, which is, unfortunately, what I see happening in Nigeria is that they are not building their banking infrastructure in a way that is long-term sustainable for us and them. Meaning, I still see them borrowing tons of money from the IMF. And I don't see them, look, I just sent this to Dynast this morning about collateralizing the resources that they have to their currency. We're going into a period of global resource domination. And the banking system that we have in Nigeria needs to be able to hold the joint venture capital that would be coming from the United States and maybe from the UK that is in hard currency. You have to have the resources there to be able to hold it, because how are you going to fund it? You're going to probably fund it by letters of credit, and this is going to this whole thing with the SWIFT, with the SWIFT system and what's happening with BRICS, et cetera, et cetera. But Shah's point is correct. That is the socket that our plugs could and should go into, and things like that. So yes, I just wanted to throw that back.
Mr. Research, go ahead.
Here's the thing, and I have a different thing for Philip, but here's the thing on the situation that Shah, and this is just first year business school. Make sure you understand it's not a money pit. Like, there will be no futile effort in this. Second thing is, understand the cultural landscape. You mentioned the coups. That is really essential when you're investing in something, and it may be taken away from you, and you can't stop it. The only way you'll be able to stop it is to have your own paramilitary group to stop the coups. The third thing is, who are the current investors? Make sure that we're not going in working for investors who already have a dominant interest. And then all of our stuff, once again, is futile, money lost. This is just basic business. We have to understand what vetting businesses are. Vetting businesses start with, who are the current investors? Even the minor investor who might be trying to get a chair. I can tell you about a guy who, I forgot the name of the company. He had an oil company I wanted to invest in. He let some people from Boston get a seat. Next thing you know, they manipulated a second seat. Next thing you know, they manipulated a third seat, and now they took his company away from him. That's a real thing. But to the thing I was going to say to Philip about the economics. So let's talk economics, Philip.
Okay, let's do it. But let me wait before you go to that. Can I, because you made a point.
Let me finish.
We need to address this.
For you guys for a minute. I've been waiting for you guys for a minute.
Okay. All right, dude. Do your thing.
So my first question to you is, if a black person owns a business, but they have no black male employees, they have no black female employees, is that a black business, Philip?
Technically, it qualifies as one, but you are hitting a very good point that it doesn't serve the black community per se.
So as we continue this economic conversation, and we're talking about Africa, please, everybody listening in the audience, understand that's the most difficult part of black economics. What is truly a black business? Is it a black business that's employing black people, or is it just a black face? That's what we got to understand.
I mean, this is a key point. I keep going.
Right. So when we're talking about economics, money, or building in any regard, if you're not employing, then everybody who's not being employed still feels disenfranchised. But then the non-black people get to say, look at Philip, he owns that. He's black. What's wrong with the rest of y'all? Meanwhile, the Pakistani guy who owns, he's hiring his worst people. Oh no, they're not qualified because you black people are going to train them. Meanwhile, the Filipino, he's hiring his worst people, the unskilled one. Oh no, they don't know how to type. They don't know how to do anything. But you white people, you white Americans, you're going to train them. You got to understand when we talk economics, what's really going on in the workforce. And my last question to Philip, and I'll get a microphone back to him. Why is the EEOC for the past 50 years so high for black males? If all this stuff is true for black economics, the EEOC shouldn't have all these court cases where our brothers are suing people from the application level. They shout out to the black man that just won $3 million against the Chinese company. Why is it our black community? Because I fight and hire a lot of black dudes. I risk my name in medical to hire a black dude. Why we don't have a lot of black people, managers and owners, hiring black men who are qualified or who just really want to get the job and learn? We can't talk economics, Mr. Phillip, without holding to account the people who are in position to hire, yet they hire more white people than they hire black people. What do you say, Mr. Phillip?
All brilliant points. I will try to, and if I forget something, I will try to respond in order. But let me go to the first thing that you went at, which is I think that you need some legal reforms in Nigeria and West Africa to do 49 agreements with the state there. That's what they did in Asia. And what that does is then you know that control of the project is in part underwritten by the government there. So that was part of when we were talking about vetting, that you set up a free trade zone, you say that any company that comes in there to partner, 51% of it's owned by the state of Nigeria or the state of Liberia or the state of Sierra Leone. And then you take that part that's owned by the government and you roll that into a mutual fund or some sort of collateralized fund that other Africans and other parts of the diaspora can invest in. But the main point is to give it economic oversight. So you need some statutory reforms in Nigeria. Now, to the stuff that you were talking about, Mr. Research. You put your finger on it, and there are a couple of issues there. Let me just try to deal with the top ones. One is that you've got issues about the definitions, and it has to do with what the Supreme Court has done in terms of saying who is a minority, what is a minority, and how that's recognized by the state in terms of ownership. So to your point, you were talking about companies that have a minority face, essentially, or a minority owner, but that their employees are not black, and specifically a black owner with non-black employees. And my answer to that is twofold. One part of it is on us that we can control, and that is that it is my view that a lot of our people, our families, are not sending our kids to school with the idea that they're going to work for a black business or a family business or something black where they have a stake in it.
That's
so
Philip, sorry to interrupt you. That's a great point. You just made a great point there. And for me, like myself, for example, I mean, my parents, my grandparents, they all work for the state because I'm from Sacramento, or they were nurses. So you make a great point there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an issue because if you look at the other groups, many of the kids that are in school or in class with them, they are primarily there because they're parents don't speak English well. They've got some sort of startup family business, and they're trying to learn the skills to help them run that business.
There you go.
If they don't work in those businesses themselves after school. Whereas our kids, at the most aspirational part, we're trying to figure out how to go work for a Mzungu business or a Mzungu corporation and compete with the Mzungus for that job, when the Mzungus have an incentive to hire their own spouses, sons, and daughters. And so that's hugely problematic, but it's something that we could control, in that we can have a reframing of, listen, you're at that school to learn the math well enough that you can help me at our gas station or our cleaners or our whatever it is that our family does.
30 seconds, Mr. Phillips. 30 seconds.
No, go ahead.
And just like Dinah's, when we have Black uncles and aunties not trying to pull us into some of these stuff, then of course they're going to do stuff on the block. When you got people who's like, oh, well, you don't know this and you don't know that. Well, the Pakistani guy don't know either, auntie. Well, that's not my concern. Well, auntie, you sound like the police. You don't have a concern that your linear Pakistani HR person just brought in somebody who's not qualified, but you're trying to police me because I don't know? What sense does that make, auntie? That is a problem when we want to elevate and talk about Black economics. Go ahead, Mr. Phillip.
No, I'm loving this, because these are the kind of dialogues that we really need to have, Mr. Research. A lot of this other stuff about what Jeezy is doing and, you know,
Right.
what's happening on the block.
I got a quick question for you, Philip.
Wait. Can I finish this thought, and then I will come right back. And I'm gonna have to duck out too. I got somewhere else to be. But let me just try to deal with this. Okay, so I think I was at the point where I was describing what qualifies as a Black-owned business, and Mr. Research made an excellent point about hiring our own family and hiring our own people. And part of it, if you talk to Black business owners, is an ongoing frustration with our community when we do try to hire our people, of our people, in some cases, not all, not being motivated to be the best employee. And in some cases, doing things that undermine the business. And that's another issue for another show of how and why that's happening. But it is my view that our people have to be reprogrammed on that, and that starts at home. You know, like, and I would just say this, and this is not to prop up my parents or whatever, but my dad, when I was a kid, used to say, listen, I need you to get up and make sure you're working when the sun hits this bedroom. Why? Because one day you will have a boss, if it's not me, and you need to learn the discipline of getting up for a job. Now, at the time, I hated that, particularly on the weekends. But Dad had a point. He was trying to teach me the discipline of learning how to work. And this is something that we used to do and maybe still do, but we don't do it enough. And because of that, our kids are going to the school and they're not taking it with the level of seriousness that they should, which is that we need excellence. We have to push our expectations so that we can build good businesses that we can, scale them to go to Africa and circulate this cash. We need that. All right, so back to my point to Mr. Research. Okay, so you've got the first problem of the definition of what is a Black business. The second problem is that you have to understand, in some of the Supreme Court rulings, specifically Bakke versus Regents, that many of the entities that are there to, let's say, make sure justice is done of equal access to the employment workplace, specifically you brought up the EEOC, may or may not, because I am not giving legal advice on this podcast, not be there to do that. And so you get a certain result, which Mr. Research brought up. That's as much as I'll say about that. but that you're good to make the observation, and I would question your assumptions as to why they're there. So I hope I answered all your questions. Oh, and also I saw Jonathan made a point in the hiring or the money pit aspect of that iron place in Nigeria. And this is where I would say, Jonathan, that's why you need some sort of statutory incubator changes in West Africa in terms of how the laws work, why the free trade zone is being put in, and who owns it. And I would just say, you know, in my brief work in Vietnam, that Vietnam said flat out, if you come in here, 51% is owned by the government, and we will use that money to make sure that other larger entities can invest in the country. So they
That was
put it
me.
into mutual funds.
Let
Okay.
me read some of these
Let me-
super
let me-
chats. Let me read
make a
these
quick-
super chats first. Shout out to Jedi Drew. Thank you for the $5 holla. Maurice Galladay, thank you for the $10 super chat. And Ruby Williams, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate y'all. All right, go ahead.
All right, we generating some super chat money in here, y'all. This is good talk. So here's something that I want to throw to you guys in this. I don't know that much about business. So what do you guys think about? There was a situation where I think it might have been India, was a major country that did crowdfunding, and they raised close to $1 billion with crowdfunding. It was a big campaign, national campaign, something. And what do you think of worker owned as a model to use? So I know this project that I was talking about, it seems like it should be a state-owned project, but at some point in the maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the 2000s, there was some group that was trying to buy Ajakuta. They went into negotiation with this group, and it was a lot of problems, a lot of back and forths, and Nigeria had to end up getting back that whole project. So they had tried to sell it off to some Indian investors and some other investors, and it's a big mess. So they got it. They had to pay money to spend money to get that whole steel company back in good standing in terms of ownership and that kind of thing. But anyway, that type of project would be a great project, provided that the due diligence is done and everything makes sense and it's everything is positioned right. But in terms of a model, worker owned is one model. And also in terms of raising money, working with organizations, nonprofit organizations, like African Diaspora Development Institute or whatever, some other organizations, to, instead of just doing it maybe the way that an attorney would do it, or a politician would do it. People that know the way that things like that are done, trying some new ways. That's kind of my throwing out question in terms of a project like that.
So I would say to Mr. Philip Baki, please remember that that's a school and not so much employment, but I understand your point. To Mr. Shah, I would just quickly say, anytime you're dealing with a country that has a question mark government, whether it's Haiti, whether it's Grenada, whether it's Tangier, you got to understand the cultural makeup, because we don't have the U.S. government to come in and protect our interests. So if I'm a Pakistan guy and I do something in Africa, I don't have the ability to have the Pakistan government come in and support my interests the way Britain has if I was a Britain guy, or the way America has if I was an American guy. So remember, as an American Black, you don't have the support of the military force to come in like you would if you were a white guy digging for gold or what have you. You just don't. So you're going to have to think about the protection of this investment. How does that look? Is that a paramilitary group? How do you prevent theft? How do you prevent culture change? Let's say one guy gets elected and he's on some Uganda stuff. Hey, all Americans out. To hell with your investment. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with that $40 million that you and these 89 families have invested? You got to think all that out.
Well, we're not. We definitely don't have
That would be the best way for us to go over there and
right.
try to live
But
there and get citizenship and passports. That way we have citizenship there. And then
Yeah,
Black Americans send that money over there to us instead of trying to give it to someone else.
well,
I,
That's
I support
feels like
all of that. I think you guys are correct. Let me just say this right back to Mr. Researcher, because you raised it. Both Baki and this most recent case on affirmative action, what happens is the court makes a ruling in a specific area, like in education, and then they expand that to the workplace. And it's happening now. You just saw, and I think when you were on, you brought this up before, and I said this back before, which is that now the Goldman Sachs Fund for Black Women has been put on pause because the court
I knew it was going to happen.
But this is why, because you have a thing in our Constitution about specific groups getting specific targeted economic benefits, and it gets taken to the Supreme Court and struck down. And that also is part of the problem with the reparations effort that some of these people, and I'm not naming anyone, are having. And I've been on this show enough times to say what my recommendation is, which is well in line with what we're talking about today, which is some form of reintegration into the African countries that we came from. Now, with regards to ownership, because Mr. Research, you raised another point, or maybe it was Shah did, about crowdfunding. I'm not a big fan of crowdfunding because of oversight. If you have paid attention to what happened with the Tulsa real estate fund and our friend Jay Morrison, that the part of the issue with crowdfunding is who gets the money and what are the rights of the people who give it to be able to enforce the will of what they said the money was for. And so I'm not a big fan of that. On the other hand, I am a huge fan of co-ops, but co-ops don't work unless you have the statutory framework within that country or municipality or city to support them. And if they are not on equal footing with the private sector, or what I'm specifically saying with C corporations, then they tend to have problems because they have problems scaling, and they also have problems because they have a lot of leadership, because it's, you're now giving co-op ownership shares to the workers themselves. So you have to have the framework set up so that they can thrive. With regards to this project and projects like it, when the government shifts over, look, I am of the view that many of these investments need to go within a framework within West Africa of regional economics as opposed to state economics. And what I mean by that is to set up an entity that encompasses West Africa, another entity that encompasses East Africa. And that way you avoid some of the tribalism issues, but you also get consistency of ownership. So if it's a regional fund that helps put this in place, although it's going into Nigeria, then you can say, well, look, this president came in or this party came in, and just because they left office, the project continues and the ownership continues this way because it's for not only the state of Nigeria, but for the region of West Africa. And that requires a different kind of framework than we have now. And part of what all of it does, because part of the issue that you're raising, Mr. Research, is the skim from the top and the corruption from the top unplugging these projects, because you have shifts between the ethnic groups and shifts between the leadership. And what we've got to do is, this is a period where we have to rethink what our structures are going to be. The Chinese had a moment where they restructured. There's always been a tension in China between the emperor and the merchants. And if you go back and look, there's a period where the merchants were going all around, even to East Africa, and trading. And when they got back to China, the emperor came in and burned down all the ships. And they went into a dark period where they closed the outside world out. This is a thing that we have to discuss within our African context of we have a tendency to have a kingdom type approach to things. And when the king or kings get off cue, as they did during the slavery period, that we don't have a structure to reform it. And so and what do I mean by that? And I'm not trying to beat up on the African kings or whatever, but it's my view that they got into a period where the gold mines were starting to dry out, and they had not invested money in reverse engineering the technology that they had and making finished products. And so when the Europeans decided to change from restocking their ships going around the Cape of Africa to actually staying and trading for people, they did not have the technology to resist them. They had muskets, but the muskets were not reverse engineered, so we had a better weapon. And so when they came with the better weapon, then it set off a chain of events that led to the global slave trade that we had. But that could have been avoided, because it's not like we don't invent stuff. We invent tons of things. We invent so much stuff that it's copied by the other groups. But what we don't do is we don't mass produce it and do finished goods. We struggle with that. And that's a cultural problem that we have to address as Africans.
Well, one of the things that they did when they went into Africa is they identified those organizations that were checks and balances for the leadership. For example, the Ogboni in Nigeria. They some of the information I got in lecture in Black Studies was that they went in, and once they identified these traditional organizations and the structure, is they begin to destroy, sow seeds of adversary or doubt and confusion and stuff like that. So they after they enslaved and they were in colonization position, they put pogroms on the different deity groups, on the different cults, because that was part of the organization of the society. So once they had captured it, they made sure that they said, okay, you cannot meet and do your spiritual shit that you do, because it was also political. But destroying the Ogboni was a major thing that allowed checks and balances to be thrown to the wind, and I think that some kings might have abused their position at that point. Things were in disarray. So
can I duck out of here? I have a meeting I have to go to. I will say this though, my boy Zulia's in the chat with Royal Image, and if you want to see something really tough, Dynast did a trip years ago where he showed what those African kings bought with the human slaves that they traded for, and it's a tragic set of brooms and top hats and tea kettles. Look, we got to look at how we make these decisions, brothers. And I appreciate and respect all of you, and I thank you for giving me your time. I got to duck out. I got a meeting. Okay.
Let me read. Thank you, Phil. Let me read some of these super chats. Timilade, thank you for the super chat. Lily, thank you for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. All right, we'll stay on for like 15 more minutes, but go ahead, Shaw.
That was it. Just knowing that, like my brother was saying, research is saying that you've got to, know the culture, or study as much of the culture and the politics, so that you can really speak to what needs to be spoken to. And I think the environment right now of the people in a place like Nigeria is a good environment to be able to do something that is more of a revolutionary type of endeavor in terms of generating money, doing money and taking resources and adding value to the resources. So you just, I'm in these groups, I'm listening to people all day, a lot of times I'm in here sewing and listening to folks in Nigeria talking about in fact, this morning they're talking about a new Nigeria. What does that mean? And so you begin to hear, a common thread through a lot of the complaints and a lot of the, aspirations of the people. There's a common thread. So to me, this is an environment to do something like that and have the people these young folks who make up half the population involved in this and on a level in which they can see some change and some, it could be disruptor though. I got to tell you, it could be a real serious disruptor and in some other ways that Philip was talking about.
Yeah, but my thing is for everybody, don't let the idea get before the process. Don't let the idea or the lust for the success of the idea get before the process. I say this in a lot of business discussions that involve Africa. Back in May 2022, a young girl was burnt alive because she didn't agree with Allah. Let that sink in. She didn't hit nobody, didn't curse nobody. Her fellow college students burnt her alive, and as she burned, they said they yelled, "God is great." Who went to jail for that? So when you're talking about business and you're talking about creating something, everything's good while the money's flowing. Okay? You might have a great 5 years and be like, the hell with what C-Lay is saying. This is great. Always be aware. Somebody is being disenfranchised. It's the same thing that happened in Liberia when the grandson of the founder was killed, even though he's the one that brought in the Firestone contract. You killed him, everything went in disarray.
Bro, I'm hearing a little bit of naysaying there. I understand caution, but I'm hearing a little naysaying. It's bringing up this whole thing of distrust amongst ourselves, amongst our people. Here, there, them with themselves over there, us over here with ourselves. That is a problem that we have to deal with. We've got to push through that. And I agree with some of the points you're talking about. You get all excited about the idea and everybody sees, if it's money, they see money. If it's change and revolution, they see that. Whatever the dream is, but you have to have that part where you can see ahead and it's a good feeling and then it's good for the people. It's not just good for you. That could be the thing that pushes it forward. But trust me, I'm under no illusions of the fact that if you're 98% finished with a project and it doesn't go to fruition and you're 98% finished and then nothing after that, that you're dealing with a serious situation. So if anybody that would be willing to take on that project or any project like that would know that you would be dealing with a situation that is going to be more than just business deal. That's
yeah, but I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people in the chat and everybody listening. It's not about naysaying. It's not about don't do it. In business, there are no feelings. There's just math. There are no feelings in business. Let me just finish this point and okay. I'll give it to you, mister. There are no feelings in business. It's just that we tend to not understand the process because it requires reading and it's boring. And we rather go off feelings and assumptions. Well, we don't want to do that too much because all it takes is one or two slip-ups. Why do you think we haven't controlled the chocolate fields? Why do you think they don't control the chocolate fields? Why aren't the chocolate fields in Haiti developed? Because it's a business problem. It's not about that we don't feel we can go over there and take over the chocolate and just kick the Swedish people out of the chocolate empire. Yeah, we can. But how did the Swedish get it that way? Paramilitary force protecting those fields.
Business is also warfare too. Don't make no mistakes. Business can be warfare.
Also, it's an issue of distribution as well, which is why sometimes it's good to have allegiances or even friendships with other groups. Like, for instance, an old friend of mine, he's Asian or Chinese, and he migrated to the United States. And he told me the ins and outs of the inside of the all of these Chinese food stores that we see all over our communities, all over the country. Basically, what he was telling me was they have a main distributor. So you think all of these Chinese food stores are individually grown or independent businesses? No, what they have is it's almost like they're a franchise. Even though they have different names, they have one main distributor that they all go to, and they go through this main guy to provide them with all of their the money that they need to run their businesses and the supplies that they need to run their businesses. So if you wanted to monopolize the chocolate business that's of all of the cocoa plants that's coming out of Africa, well, you need your main distributor that will supply all of the stores throughout, the countries that are getting their chocolate from the main distributor. So until we have that main boss, what are the super wealthy guys that could, take the brunt of the losses from not being able to sell the product, because he has the capital to back him up, and he also has the capital and the manpower to supply all of the smaller businesses. So there's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? There's a supply chain and a distribution that we all need to make our smaller businesses operate. So until we get one of these super rich guys like Jay-Z or whomever that had the capital to supply us, then we're not going to be able to monopolize any particular market.
All right, cool. We'll go ahead and close out. Hey, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror, search for Huru. Peace.
Peace.